As I mentioned, today's session is going to talk about the alumni program. I'm going to cover quickly what the Founder Institute is, and from there, we'll quickly go into a presentation of the alumni and let you meet them, and then as they'll be here to answer your questions. So the Founder Institute program is the largest pre-seed accelerator program. We're present in over 200 cities. We have over 5,000 alumni and 15,000 mentors, and a very high valuation from companies coming out of the program that have been able to raise over 30 billion in funding for all these different companies all over the world. We are a very early stage pre-seed accelerator program. So you have weekend programs, you have small programs, you have seed accelerator programs. We tend to be early stage, so from the idea to creation of the business stage. We get people going with their ideas, make sure that the business is well structured, and then quite often a lot of the graduates go on to join different programs or move forward with their companies in other types of programs. As I mentioned, it really is pre-seed, it's idea, it's what's your team, how's your early company structured. So we focus on these different areas of business development, vision, ideation, how you structure your team, your product development, your go-to-market strategy, how do you develop early traction, and then how do you figure out how you're going to have repeatable revenue, preparing a company really for early stage funding. And the program is a 3.5-month program. Over the 14 weeks, we cover a variety of different topics. It's an evening program, so short sessions in the evening. And then there is assignments. So if you enter the program, you should expect around 20 hours of work per week. Maybe the alumni will tell me that I'm not quite right, that they spend a lot more time or a lot less time on the program, but we expect quite a bit of work. Don't quit your day job. This is something that you can do at the same time that you're doing regular activity. And it's really intended to help you create the business structure and the different elements that you'll need to cover to have your company and your idea move forward. And then once you've graduated, it's really, it's much more than just that 3.5 months program. You get access to a mentor network, you get free access to the funding lab and other support post-structure programs. So you should be able to continue to develop your company, and we support that development. If you have questions about the program, you can talk to the alumni, you can talk to graduate companies. As I mentioned before, we have companies from all over the world that have been involved in the FI program. And the critical network of a critical factor of success is really having a very good network of people who can help you address questions. So we have over 70 mentors in the Frankfurt chapter alone. You can reach out to those mentors. You can reach out to the international network, and they're invested in helping you succeed in your project. The team for the Frankfurt FI chapter is Quentin, myself, Britta, and Carolina, and we're there to answer questions. We have our own experience with startups and business development. And here is a short list portfolio of some of the graduate companies. We'll have today speaking Alessio, Michelle, Natalia, and Ramon from Tuto, Supplino, SDG 17, Avalinguo, I don't see, yeah, we go, Avalinguo, and Karsten from Guided Doing. And last slide, just a little bit on the calendars. We have an early bird deadline, November 14th, so you get a reduction in the cost of the program. We will then have the regular final deadline in January of next year. We've shifted the program over to January. and we will kick off the semester on the 8th of February. If you have any questions specific to the program, you can go either to FICO or reach out to me. I'll put my information on in the chat. And then what I'd like to do now is really open up our session to introductions from the alumni. And let me stop sharing my desk. And then we can answer questions. Why don't we begin with Natalia? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience, where you are with your business now? How are you doing what are your big challenges, really? And then I'll ask you some questions afterwards.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for invitation. I'm very pleased to be back to found the Institute family and see some familiar faces. It feels very, very good, and see my peers with whom I went through this whole exercise, and I would horror, I would say, in a positive way. Because it was very, very challenging. So I'm Natalia Kaczykova-Heeb, and I was a founder of a company SDG17 Consulting, which, by the way, was already established before I was enrolled to the program, but I came with the new product, which was PPP House for All, international platform to facilitate public-private partnerships in the healthcare sector. And I have to say that it was a great experience. I strongly recommend to be enrolled and found the institute. And I actually regret that I hadn't had a chance to do it earlier. At the time I was founding my company, it would be very, very useful for me. I did the kind of similar exercise, but which was much shorter in a different format from IHK Frankfurt. But it's a really different type of exercise. What I could say, first of all, I would say, referring to what Eugenia just mentioned, I think it's much, much, much more demanding in terms of time. You definitely will not be able to spend only 20 hours as foreseen. I would say for success of the program and your personal success, it's full-time job. And having a company, in my case, was advantage and disadvantage. Advantage was I didn't have to go through the administrative stuff, you know, talking to the lawyers, etc., etc. It was already done. I had my logo, I had basis, it was running already. The disadvantage was because it was a running business, then it was very challenging in terms of time because I was working. And then to do a lot of challenging homework and exercises was very, very difficult for me. And I have to say, sometimes I was even crying and even was thinking to drop. But I'm happy I didn't drop because it's very important to close the loop and finish the exercise. But what I want to say, even if you decided to drop, I think it's not something negative. In some situations, it's even a positive because I think considering the intensity of this program, it's sometimes necessary to make a step back, to make your thinking, to refine your business concept, and then come back and finalize it. So
That's a great point, Natalia, because if we have a very large dropout rate, about 50%, and because the program is structured that way, if you do drop, then you can come back over the next year for free. So if you have the possibility to take some time off, redevelop your idea, and then come back. Yeah, Natalia,
yes, please.
I have a question about your structure today. I know we did the whole introduction around the Frankfurt program, but I'm really curious about where you are with your startup idea. What are your big challenges today?
Well, I have to admit that I left the company from the position of the managing director, so I'm not involved anymore in operation. But I build a system, it goes without me.
Okay.
The company is working, developing new customers. It's, everything is working. And I remember maybe 20 years ago when I had my very first business. And then somebody told me that the way you see whether the company is working when the manager is going on vacations. So everything should work without him. So I think this is a good sign. The PPP Health for All is award-winning platform. It received the several prizes. One was given by Minister Spahn in Berlin. We also were top 20 projects, global infrastructure hub. So, and now I'm working for Siemens. I'm global lead for public-private partnerships and greenfield hospitals. And I'm happy to...
You're with Healthliners?
Say it again?
With the Siemens Healthliners group?
Siemens Healthineers, yeah. This is Siemens Healthcare. Yeah. It's a new name of the company. And actually, I'm working there because I wanted to have this hands-on experience, how to do PPP projects, which I didn't have before. And for me, it was very important to, understand every nuance, everything, how this business running. And for me, it's an absolutely great experience because I'm learning so much. And I'm very, very grateful. But the message statement I want to make is that my current work actually confirmed that everything what I've done in my company was right. I was right about my instincts. I was right about the business concept. It's really a good idea to have a platform like this because it's absolutely unique product, very niche product. And everyone needs this because this is what I could actually confirm working for a very large company, which I'm very proud to be part of.
Great. That's, I wish you success on and maybe we'll circle back to that, but maybe you'll come back into from the Siemens experience, then the next step might be heading back into the startup world again. Ramon, how about yourself?
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Ramon Brenna from Mexico, and actually I discovered the FI program last year. And initially I had registered for the Mexico City program, but then I discovered the Frankfurt program, which could sound a little bit weird. Why on earth could I join the Frankfurt program? Well, the reason is that it was specialized. It has a kind of section specialized for language learning. And the company I am proposing, which is Avalinguo, is related to the use of advanced technology for language learning. And so I moved virtually to Frankfurt program, and I follow it all through. I was one of the graduated alumni. And yeah, I can say that it was really a great experience. And during the program, I made a major pivot, which was initially my company was related to something with virtual reality, and then we moved to something a little bit more focused and related more to artificial intelligence and machine learning, which was my core competence. And that was due to the advice of one of the advisors. I can tell you this, one of the strongest points of the Founder Institute program is the incredibly high quality of the advisor, really incredibly high. Those are people who just to find an interview with them without the support of the Founder Institute it would be really impossible. I mean, really, the highest world experts in several domains, and not kind of just theoretical experts, but hands-on experts, the owners of very large companies who are willing to dedicate, for example, half an hour to discuss specifically with you some issue. So, for example, I had an interview with Peter Galante, which is the owner of Innovative Languages. And really that was amazing, because I discussed with him for a while, well, for an hour or so, this idea of making a pivot from my initial idea. So that was really something I think of incredible value. So it was one of the highlights of the experience in the program. So later on, I continue, when I graduated from the program, I continue with the development of my company. I had to admit that we got some technical setbacks, and we underestimated some of the technical challenges. But well, and later on, I discovered one Australian company who are working exactly on the same idea as I did. I haven't discovered yet. I am currently negotiating a way of joining forces, and that's the point where I am right now. But I think the main point here is to comment on what are the strengths and perhaps some weaknesses in the program. If I can make a suggestion for
Absolutely.
the Founder Institute, it would be to focus a little bit less on the pitch and more on the validation, more on the practical validation. That would be my single, well, not really advice, because it's really just, my experience is just one point in among the many students that you have, and perhaps it could be a little bit biased, but from my point of view, that would be. So really, I thank not only the Founder Institute, but also the specific people who helped me out, like, for example, Eugene, also Dimitris and Quentin, and all the terrific advisors inside the Founder Institute program, and the outside advisors as well. So really, thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
I'm going
Ramon,
to leave the.
I think that's a good point, saying, you know, that the idea market fit, the validation of your idea, and how do you build that out is a continuous challenge. It's not only through the program, but also, you know, once you leave the program, do you have an idea? Do you have a product that's going to fit your market? And hopefully, we covered some of those tools in the program. How do you do that? Why you need to focus on that? Why you need to have that customer continuously? But I think it's a big topic, and would love to talk a little bit more about that. But let me introduce Michelle. Michelle is also my partner, and we run Supplino together. She's a graduate from the 2020 program. Why don't you tell us about what you're doing, where you are today? You are also participating in the funding lab, so the post-graduation program for funding.
Yeah,
that's a big project, has a lot of, it's pretty intense. And maybe your thoughts about that program too.
sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle. I went to the program in Frankfurt. As Jean said, I was one of the graduates. We had 8 of us that graduated. I think there were 32 that started, to give you an idea of a typical Founder Institute experience. My colleague my friend that I graduated with said it was like Hunger Games, you know, like every week people would drop competitively. I think the thing that surprised me about FI is I went in with just an idea. I did not have like a business, you know, concretely pictured. I didn't have anything running. I'm not a technical expert. I'm a domain expert, and I wanted to fix a problem. And the program is so intense. You need to really be serious about that you're going to go forward with this business, because that's the assumption. Everybody in the program is saying to you, when are you incorporated? Who's going to be on your team? Who's going to be your advisor? Like it went so fast and so directly. For me, that's where the value was, because I was in the stage where I was kind of like playing around with this idea, like, oh, maybe this could be a good business someday kind of thing. And as soon as I got into that program, it was like being on a train. Boom, you were moving forward with it, and you need to be really serious about it. So I don't think I spent as much time on it as Natalia did, and maybe because she had an operating business that she was taking forward. So it wasn't as time intensive for me, but for me, it was more a mindset of being serious about this thing and how are we going to get a functioning business out of it, and a functioning business that makes money and grows at an aggressive rate. So I moved just recently back to California, and we incorporated as an American company. I think all the other companies were European companies, I think, that graduated. I was the only American. Oh no, there was one other American company that's still operating out of Frankfurt. And the advantage, I'm with Ramon, that one of the biggest strengths of the program is the mentors and the people that you get to talk to. And I can tell you now, being in California, it does not matter where you are to be able to tap into this. You know, Ramon got the advantage of like a vertical of experts. It really doesn't matter what vertical you're in or where you are globally. Now that I'm in California, I'm just calling people and saying, hey, I was in the Frankfurt program. I know you're an FI mentor in Silicon Valley. I know you're a mentor in Los Angeles. Can I talk to you? And they always say yes. So this is a really nice feature of the program, is just a huge brain trust that you're tapping into. Let's see, what else, Eugene? What else is important to share?
The funding lab, where are you with that?
Oh,
And
yeah.
how are
Okay.
you,
So
how you're finding, what are your big challenges right now in funding?
yeah. Okay. So my business, Supplino, is a marketplace where we match two very fragmented markets. One is small businesses that do manufacturing and supply chain. So anybody that's a goods-based small business, and all the resources of supply chain and manufacturing. So customs brokers for import export, experts, manufacturers, 3PLs and warehouses. That's a marketplace. So that's our business. And we started in a non-scalable mode with us doing something without a platform. And then while we were building the platform, so we started getting customers and just offering services directly to clients. And now we're raising money to get the platform built out into this marketplace. And so for fundraising, we started fundraising without the funding lab, without this program at FI, because the program hadn't started yet. It was just the calendar. And then when the funding lab started, we jumped into it and joined it. Fundraising is a ton of work. Even in these days with all this money floating around, it is really tough. And the FI funding program is just as brutal as the FI accelerator program, where it's very demanding and they expect you to do a lot every week. However, having said that, they also give you a structure, access to tools, mentorship, and support. So we're in the funding lab program. I would say the funding lab is tougher than the original program, because the original program is your own business and you're developing it. Going out and getting funding for something, now you're in with all the other businesses that are trying to get funding, and trying to make that pitch for money. So that's where we are with it. We're kind of in, what would you say? I don't know. We've got 10% raised of our total, which is good. I mean, that gets you started. It's very much, fundraising is very much a someone said to me, it's groupthink. Once you get enough people in, then everybody starts to come in. So it's not linear, right? You have to get a start and get that going. But that's what we're working on today. And it's tough. It really is. We're going to get through it. It'll be fine. We'll get the money. But it's yeah, if you talk to anybody that said it was easy, they're very, very lucky.
Great, Michelle. And then we have Alessio, you arrived at the perfect timing. We're doing introductions. I'm asking the participants of the previous programs where they are in their project, what they found useful, what are you doing right now, what's your biggest challenge?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Eugene. Eugene, thank you for inviting. Good to see you all here. And great to be here at the right time. So my name is Alessio. I have started last year a project called Tuto.ai. It's a language learning platform to enable everyone to have a more personalized path to learning a language. The reason why I started that is because I'm passionate about language learning. My background is in business development and entrepreneurship. So I've had roles in business development for a bunch of scales up before. So I come primarily from a business background. And I joined the cohort last year in September with the Founder Institute at a point where I had done some initial validation around the problem that I wanted to solve and to tackle. And I put together a very basic platform to essentially get some customers on board. And getting first to how the program helped me and where it got me, and then a bit later into what I'm doing today and where I am with my project. The program was very useful to help me maintain initial momentum, which is something very important, especially as a solo founder, where you have to basically motivate yourself every day and figure out what to do and move forward. And you really need someone to bounce ideas with you and kind of be a sounding board to check what you're doing. So it was very helpful for that. Specifically, the process of having to present your idea to people that might have not heard about it before, or that are not even interested specifically in the field that really drives you every day. So you kind of have a very intuitive understanding to it, which is not something that you can necessarily expect from other people. So that was super helpful. I have also the network itself that has created. I mean, we're meeting here. Many of the people that are here tonight, or some of them at least, are people that I'm in contact with regularly, and after the program we've been in contact with, and it's a very strong support network that I've appreciated throughout the time. Having said that, there are still some challenges that are not solved by the Founder Institute, obviously, because it's a very tough journey ahead, and it's not a linear journey. That's what we all know and what we learn as we proceed. So my personal journey with Tuto has been during the Founder Institute. I was dating, so to speak, some potential co-founders, because I got to a point where I realized that I wanted more than I needed. You don't need anything, but certain things are very helpful. I wanted a product co-founder, and I dated a few potential co-founders, which in the end didn't turn out to be a good match for either side. We're still in touch. They've founded other companies, but it wasn't just the right match for us. And so it's been kind of a walk through the desert for me for quite a while, to going forward with the project, but at the same time, not really moving to the next step because we haven't launched the product that we wanted to launch. And that's pretty much where I am today, that I have found another potential co-founder, and we're dating again, and we're getting to the point where we want to go forward. Long story short, the project is still alive and is going forward, but I sort of am at the stage where I need to get to the next step by finding this, by building essentially this product. And that is something, as I said before, where obviously it's more about the project itself. It's about kind of a path that is not necessarily linear. And of course, the Founder Institute has helped me by connecting with people, but it's obviously not something that is solved per se. And looking back, if I can give a piece of advice, I had started companies before. I had quite some experience. I'm sorry if I'm taking a bit too long time. I don't know how long
Continue.
this was.
Continue.
I figured, okay, I've got experience, especially business experience. I know people that have web development agencies. I'm passionate about the field. I'm going to do it all. It's going to be great. I know it's hard to do it as a solo founder. I'm going to do it. Looking back, I have to say, yeah, I would strongly advise to get a co-founder on board, mostly not necessarily for the skill set, which is very important, but also especially for the journey, really the psychological journey ahead and everything you need to do. And I would use even more so than the program to pair up with someone as a co-founder.
I think that's great advice. I think that as you mentioned, being in the desert, and I think, the whole process of developing your company. It's a huge mental challenge. It's a continuous question of, am I going to succeed? Am I going on the right path? Will anybody buy my product? Having someone who walks with you when you are mentally down or low on energy, it's really essential to making your project succeed. So it's not just the competencies, but it's also, you know, having somebody who's going to carry you when you need to be carried. That's great. We have a couple of questions that already started. Thank you, all of you, for your intros and giving us a little bit of feedback on what you're currently doing, what your challenges are. Let's start with the questions. First question was, how do you raise funding, or did you raise funding without a billion-dollar addressable market with niche products? I will start answering part of that and then hand it over to everyone. But really, niche products are good in the sense that being able to identify what you're doing for a small market and focus on the small market is very important. Raising funds is tough, so you can't be too niche-y. You do need to have a significantly addressable market, or there are other strategies for raising funds. But Michelle, you're in the middle of fundraising. Why don't you talk about a little bit about your addressable market and how you're focused on not a niche market, but definitely a narrower market than a broad market?
Yeah. I will say FI really tries to get you to think big about your company. And there's some exercises that you'll have right in the first couple of weeks. I don't remember, it's like maybe just week 1, where it's take your market and multiply by 100. Think about, describe how you would, whatever market you have, multiply it by 100 and explain how you would get to that market. Now multiply it again by another 100. How would you get to that market? And it's more of just an intellectual thing. It's not like you have to build a business for 100 or 1,000 times. But it's for you to really start thinking about, can you bring value to a bigger group of people than you're initially thinking? Because the bigger value you can bring, for sure, the easier the funding is. Because what is very clear is investors want returns. And venture capitalists, who has all the big money, they want home runs. And they will give money to a lot of different people that they think might miss, but they only swing. There's a baseball analogy for those of you who don't follow baseball. They only swing at home run pitches. So if you can get to second base or third base, they don't even want to talk to you. And that's the problem and the challenge with not having a billion-dollar market, is it just limits the people that will give you money. And it cuts out all the VCs. And now you're looking at angel personal investors, and you're looking at angel investors that are happy with smaller returns. So it just makes it more challenging for you to fundraise. But I mean, you have to figure out for your business, what kind of business do you want to run, right? It's your business, it's not FI's business, it's not the VC's business. So if you want to run a niche small business, that's fine. You just have to be aware of how it's going to affect your funding later. And I do think that the program does a nice job of pushing you to think bigger without mandating it. It's not a requirement, but it gets you in that mind space that, like, wow, maybe my business could be a lot bigger than I thought. And that's what happened to me. I came in with a business that I thought would be a service business, and it's completely shifted now to a marketplace, because I realized that, yes, I could run a small service business and I could probably get some funding for it, but really, is that the more interesting business to run? And what helps my customers the most is building something bigger. So that's what I would say to that one.
Okay, Natalia, Ramon, Alessio, any other feedback on this question?
Yeah, I mean, we all are based in different countries. So my strategy was not to fundraise. Why? Because I actually haven't seen any benefit of it, because you could go to the bank and receive the loan, if you need for development, let's say very low rates in Germany, money are very, very cheap and available for. So I actually took this route because it was very easy, very simple process. So I just get it at very low percent. So And I think this is also, we should not forget, because, when you give equity away, then you kind of losing a little bit control in your company. And I was advised by many startups owners saying, so maybe it's not always the best solution. I mean, of course, if you, as Michelle said, you took this, the scale up model, then probably this is the right way. But I mean, you have to be mature already enough to go for fundraising and understand how you could develop. And my feeling is that, of course, money goes to money. So as soon as you generate revenues, then of course everyone is interested to work with you. So basically, and then maybe you don't even need money because you're already generating enough cash flow and et cetera, et cetera. So there are pros and contras, and it depends from country to country, from business to business, and there are no immediate, let's say, route here.
Okay, great. Fabian asks, what's the benefit of going with a class in Frankfurt? Because we're the best class. No, let me answer that. The programs are the same in all the cities. They're based on the Silicon Valley program. It's a very structured program. So honestly, you should look at two things. One is your calendar and your timing. What is the best program for that's going to fit really your timing, especially if there are a couple of different places that might fit. That's really important. And then let's have an offline discussion about your business idea, what mentors already exist in each of the networks. And if we can find a good fit for you, that's the program you should go for. Obviously, we like to have a larger class in Frankfurt, but the idea here is, despite that, the best fit is the fit that is good for you. And that's what we're going to push. We're going to really try to organize it so that you have something that really works. The Frankfurt team has a little bit of experience doing international things. Ramon, we connected him with the Mexico chapter. Alessio is incorporated in Estonia, is that correct? Yeah, Michelle's incorporated in the US. So we do a lot of support in Frankfurt for multiple countries, because that was the challenge that we gave ourselves as a program. The Cologne program is more focused in Germany. The Berlin program is very large. They're by their size, they're going to be more international. Munich tends to be very software focused. So it really depends on what you want to be doing. And then let's have that discussion, and we will really try to figure out an individual fit that makes sense for you. We're volunteers, so we don't get any additional. Alessio, go ahead.
If I may add on that, because I think that was very, very meaningful and powerful for me and Ramon building a business in the language learning space. And there's been, especially in Frankfurt, there was so to speak, a hub around this topic. And there's been so many meaningful connections done with CEOs and with industry companies in the industry that have done all the difference, even just to validate ideas and simply connect to even more experts. So I would really encourage any of you that is considering the program to follow Eugene's advice and just ask specifically for mentors that are strong in your area.
Yeah, mentors, advisors, and really co-participants. That's a plus and minus. Alessio and Ramon didn't have products that were in this exactly challenging each other, but that's also something you have to be careful. There can be, if your product idea or market idea is very similar to somebody else, you may not want to be in the same program. And the nice thing about having this international organization is, if you join one program and drop out and you want to go into another country's, another location program over the next year, it's free anywhere in the world. Second question was for Michelle. How much time have you spent on the program on average? And Fabian, was this really around the Founder Institute program or the Funding Lab program?
On the Founder Institute program, because I mean, Natalia said it was like a full-time job for her, but Michelle said that well, not full time, but still quite a lot of tasks to do. So
Yeah.
I would just like have kind of an assumption on that, because I'm self-employed myself already, and I also want to earn some money still when possibly being like allowed to work on the Founders Institute program. And then I want to have like an assumption of this is a realistic thing to meanwhile also earn some money.
Yeah. Okay. So most of the people that I went through were working when they were doing the Founder Institute. So I think it's not necessarily full-time, although you could definitely spend your full-time on it. This is not a question for sure, right? If you care about it and you really want to do the homework perfectly for your business and get the most out of it, absolutely you can spend full-time. I would say I spent around the average is 20 hours a week. I think that's reasonable. But I will tell you the 20 hours, it's a focused 20. So if you have a job that you're working 20 hours and mentally you're there, but you can kind of leave it when you leave, you'll be fine in the program. But if you have a job that you are working 40 hours a week, you are mentally working on the job even when you're not there, you're trying to get ahead, you're trying to do stuff, I think that will be tough. So if you're doing right, I think so you have to choose kind of your mental focus. I think it would be tough to really do both with a with that kind of what am I trying to say here? With it, Founder Institute, that 20 hours a week is going to be very intense, and I think some people tried to skip through it. Right, we had some people that would kind of do the minimum on the homework and say, well, I don't have 20 hours a week. I'm going to assign 8 hours a week to it or 5 hours a week to it. I'm going to just try to get through it. The problem with that is, though, then you don't really get anything out of it. Right. And I think if you're going to do that, then why bother? Right. And this is what I meant earlier when I said you need to really be in a place where you are taking your business seriously. Right. This is really something you want to move forward with, and you want that homework to be able to learn to get your business to the next level. And if that's true, I think you can do 20 hours a week is definitely doable, and then up from there.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Then next question is, can we access the recordings afterwards? Yeah, we will share this both on the FI pages on LinkedIn and on Facebook, so you'll be able to see this. We have a YouTube channel, so you can go there directly and we'll post that there. Then Isha asks, what tasks do you wish you had finished up before the program began? Let me just make a comment on that before I hand that over to somebody. The assignments and the homework, Michelle, you talked about the homework. Alessio, I know I had a conversation with you during the program about the utility of some of the assignments. You're beginning a company, and some people have already started some of the work. So the idea of the Founders Institute isn't really to cookie cutter, this is the way to do a company, but it's around rounding out the process. So if you've already started some of the tasks and you go back to them for the homework and you say, oh, this I already know, I've already did this, it's perfectly fine to say, this done and already done, and then explain why. We can't guess what you're thinking. You're not required to redo work. But you should be able to come out of the program with a rounded process. So sometimes some of the work that you've done it early on in your company development. So coming back to it allows you to rethink and redevelop things and refigure out or do it better or do more about it, particularly in things like market segmentation, product definition, market understanding. That's a continuous process, even after you left the program. So that's just, consider the assignments as something that is in certain ways flexible. I know we had discussions with different founders about, I don't need to do this, I've already done it. Yeah, okay. But rethinking about that can sometimes be useful. Who wants to take on what they should have done? Alessio, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, this is my personal view, but I think when you start a new project, there are certain parts of the company building process are not linear. You don't know how long you're going to take into them. For example, if you think about the product, problem validation, like you want to ask and understand more, and you can't just assign a week to it. It might take longer, it might take much longer, or you might be finish straight away. And of course, like the program will bring you through that step. But then if you've done some of that non-linear stuff beforehand, that's very helpful, because then you can kind of rationalize what you've done already or just wrap it all up. And it's the same with many other topics. I mean, when you start and you have, we all have backgrounds somehow in business, product, whatever it is, but obviously you're going to have thoughts beforehand about what you want to do in terms of your company, your brand, your distribution, whatever it is, the business model. You can just, if as much as you have, then through the program, you can take all these building blocks that you already have and put them down. And that's very useful. So thinking about it beforehand is definitely very useful. Yeah, especially these non-linear parts of the path, which obviously you can't, you know, time bound into a week or 2 weeks assignments then in the end.
If I may add to this, I think what I would find useful, I think we were receiving task only when we complete the previous one. Is it correct? Yeah, Eugenio, I think this was so. I was thinking that for me, in terms of time planning, in terms of kind of oversee and plan the workload, would be useful to see all the tasks at once. Why? Because, for instance, let's say branding, which let's say third or fourth working stream. I mean, this is something you sometimes just not able to decide in 3-4 days. You just need to, you know, cook it for a while to see. So it's not, you know, I mean, you could even start thinking about your logo and things like this before even officially you have this work stream started. So what I'm saying, it would be actually good to kind of open all the tasks in advance to see the workload. And if you've done like one sprint, I mean, you can't relax. You should immediately jump on the next one in order to able to cope with the challenges. This is my friendly advice.
Yeah, let me add to that, Natalia. A lot of the assignments have external dependencies. So you're going to be meeting with clients, you're going to be meeting with potential customers, you're going to do interviews, you're going to be meeting with potential advisors. Those tasks that depend on other people, really start them early, because you won't finish them on time if you have to wait for somebody else's calendar. It's just as simple as that. So think about also how you structure your work around, but there are assignments around organizing your time that early on, figuring out those kinds of aspects is really also part of company building in general. Any other input on what people should have done before starting? Yeah, Michelle, go ahead.
One thing, I really love this question. And in thinking about it, I think that one thing that many of us in my program anyway ran into is, you know, there's this saying for founders, don't fall in love with the solution, fall in love with the problem. And many of us walked into the, you know, you walk in, you have a great business idea, right? And you know, like what you want to do. And then you're like, all right, I'm going to get into FI and they're going to show me how to do it. But some of the value of the FI program and the mentors is actually rethinking your solution. And you're going to get pushed to say, what else could you do? Let go of your solution for a minute and think about, is there something like over here, over here, over here, over here that you could do that might work better? And I found that a really hard thing to do for people getting into the program in the beginning, because we all come in so in love with our idea and our solution. So that might be something that, like, if you mentally make yourself go through before the program, it will be much easier on you. If you just start thinking about, yeah, I know I love my solution, I think it's brilliant, but what if I had to come up with 3 more ideas on how to solve this that were equally good? Could I do that? And challenge yourself to think about that a little bit, because it'll make the program much easier. You may actually find that one of those is actually better than your original one once you start going through all the homework and everything. So, yeah.
Okay, great. We have a question around, what do I need to get out of the way before joining the program to focus on the business? So what should I try to get the technical issues with an app out of the way before joining the program to focus on the business? Quentin, I don't know if you can speak, because I know you're taking care of your daughter, but you're a programmer, you've done the business development side. If you have a second on technical aspects of development versus focusing on the business,
Wow, that's a huge question. And I mean, that's going to depend a lot on, this is my daughter, by the way, Clara. That depends a lot on your exact business and your exact solution. For me, I was doing data analytics. Yeah, the business side is like its own thing. That's an entire career. And you would not be wrong to have a person who like literally did nothing but the business registration and like the fundraising and the hiring, the staffing and all that. That's kind of the business side versus the technical implementation. I could have easily had a person doing just that. I'm a programmer with my background. So, you know, picking up all the business side was quite difficult for me. I don't know that I have really great advice, although the FI program helped me get through a lot of the basic business administration, like the registration of the company. And so I don't know if you can hear me over her.
We hear you.
Hopefully you can. Okay. Yeah, so the FI program got me through to a registered company. And then the rest I learned kind of on my own, also with my contacts in FI. You know, how do I pay my taxes? How do I do my accounting and things like that? Does that answer your question?
Does that answer your question a little bit? Anybody else want to pop in on that question?
Yeah, I could comment also a little bit. When I joined the FI program, I have already developed, well, actually, an actual product, which was a virtual reality app, which was already in the Google Marketplace for selling applications. But actually, the pivot that we decided to do after that made the initial development kind of irrelevant. So actually, it wasn't money very well used, the initial development, you know. So it is better to perhaps think of the problem, try to really dig as deep as you can into the business part of this, and later on you can see what are the technical implications of that and try to solve them out. But if you are really tied to some technical aspects and that limits your business idea and aspects, so that's not a good place to be. So really, I advised to follow the FI program with an open mind, try to not restrict your options, but what you already have done, because it could be really very limiting. So does it make sense?
That makes sense. And then I would say, you know, part of the aspect is you're always going to be running a company where you have technical issues on the development side. You're going to have product issues, going to have people issues. You're running things in parallel. So you're going to have to figure out a way of doing that. And maybe that's finding a co-founder. Definitely doing a company by yourself it's a very hard path to take. Maybe you want to focus on the technical aspects where you find somebody who can focus on the business. Maybe you want to develop yourself into the business access area, and then you need support on the technical aspect. Those are very personal decisions. My suggestion around that is find your cohort, whether you're in the program or outside of the program. Identify other co-founders where you can have, you know, whether it's weekly or every 2 weeks, discussions around the challenges. So you get yourself out of the desert and you get into a discussion around how do I move things forward. Then what's popular about the Frankfurt program, and can you transfer from one chapter to another? Absolutely can transfer from one program to another, but with one caveat. Not in the middle of the program, because we don't run them at the same time. So you end up dropping out of a program and then joining a different program. So if you do want to choose a program, my suggestion is really find the program that is good for you. They're all very similar instructions. We generally run the same program. So the big challenges are the calendar. And then there are verticals. Last year, the 2020 program, 2021 program, we focused on education tech and language tech while keeping the broader program. So if you have a very specific idea and you want to investigate, is there a vertical, reach out to me. We'll look at the verticals that exist. For us, for Frankfurt, for 2022 program, we're coming back to a general program. We may have, depending on the number of people that come in, because we do have a good network in the educational tech and the language tech, we may have additional programs or additional sessions on that area. But Frankfurt has been good in the areas of femtech, finance, because of the environment. And it really depends on the topics and ideas that you have. So that would be a discussion to see if there are additional services there, or if there's a different program that we would recommend. Then let me see what else we have. So the Frankfurt
Eugenio,
program.
can I jump in on that last one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just about switching programs. It's also possible once you've graduated, you're able to attend sessions at any session in the world. And so I graduated from Cologne, and but I live near Frankfurt, and so I just started going to the Frankfurt chapter sessions. Like whatever interests you, like I needed some help with like marketing or something, and so I just showed up at one of your marketing sessions, and that's actually how we met. So for people that maybe are attracted to, like, you're between Munich or Berlin or something like that, you can always switch and just go to any session that interests you. Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Then Sui was asking to Natalia about the market of biology researchers. I mean, Natalia is also in healthcare. I am also, my background is pharma, and I'm a biomedical engineer. So if you want to reach out to me, we can also discuss the aspects about research and healthcare in general. So we also have very specific, so the directors in each of the different countries have very specific background and knowledge. Talk to them and figure out which directors also might be a good fit. Mine being a cross between marketing, research, technology. Quentin, software, we have people who work in the HR space. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. Any other questions? Any comments or ideas that you need to clarify?
I may wish to say that I think team is very important. As a founder, I could say that it's not sometimes about idea. It's more about having a team, because together you come to good ideas. And I think this is a big challenge when, if you're in a different country and maybe it's not your native country, which is my case, then, you work solo, and that makes life a little bit difficult, more difficult than you would. So I would say having co-founders and people who think in the same direction, it's a very big advantage. And if you're able to find people who would share your interest, and you would have a team, at least 2 people, ideally 3, 4, then I think half of the challenge is already done.
Great. Yeah, having a good team, it makes a big difference. So in closing, I want to, Isha, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask in return, so I do have the same problem, and it also kind of comes down to that a lot of the times. So how did you manage, Natalia, to find people that would work with you on your idea when you're not from here?
Well, in my case, it was people were reaching out to me. And this is when you are working and you known and you have visibility, and I was very active and I had a lot of social engagement. So I was PPP speaker of German Health Alliance. I was actively involved in Global Health Hub Germany, in European Connected Health Alliance, and World Association of PPP Units and PPP Professionals. So I was in different forums, and you as a professional, as an expert, you attracting people because they see the value in what you're doing. And this was the case, and people were reaching out, and slowly the team was built. So this was, I think, the natural development. But you could do it also in a different way. I know there is a certain programs, and maybe Founder Institute could also borrow this concept when they actually matching together founders. Like you mentioned, the people working on the same concept, but maybe in different countries, So if you see, for instance, similar ideas, maybe it makes sense to connect them so they could work together, and maybe there will be a business idea.
Yeah, and it's more difficult now because we're all hopefully towards the end of this pandemic, but the possibility of meeting with people, having discussions, socializing, not necessarily your business idea, the details of your business idea, but the area that you're working with, the problem that you're trying to solve, being able to communicate on social media, in co-working spaces, through your network, will allow you to find people who have similar interests or who want to work on a similar problem. I can't underline enough that it's incredibly important to over-communicate around in your network and outside of your network of what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish. You should always be thinking about what is my PR strategy for myself as an individual, I'm going to network myself, but also for my company. How am I going to make sure that this idea gets out? How am I commuting this? Because people want to help. People want to come on board. They want to join you, and they want to address the same problems. And the idea of you being an outsider looking in, actually, if you look around the room, the virtual room, most of us are not German. And so we are building companies in Germany or working in this environment as immigrants, as outsiders. And it's very valuable to have a network that allows us to do that. In closing, I want to thank everybody who attended today's session, both the alumni and also the people who are looking into the program and asking questions. Do reach out to each other if you have questions, if you want to, it's again about networking. If you want to communicate with us, you have my email, you have everybody's LinkedIn information. Reach out, continue the conversation offline. I hope this was useful, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck with the program, hopefully.